By the 21st century, intense wars had ravaged the world, with chemical weapons and explosives poisoning the air, leaving very few breathable areas on Earth. This made safe living spaces the most valuable resource. Humanity was confined to two regions, the UFB United Federation of Britain and the colony. These areas were on opposite ends of the Earth. The colony was mostly poor laborers who depended on the UFB for their livelihood, traveling there daily. Their only means of transport was the Fall, an advanced giant lift system that went through the Earth's core, landing in the UFB on the other side. This 17-minute journey covered thousands of kilometers. During the trip, gravity inside the Fall became zero when passing through the Earth's center. Along with the Fall, other advanced technologies reshaped human life. One day in the colony, a man named Douglas woke up from a recurring nightmare. In his dream, he was with an unknown girl, deeply connected to her, as they fled attackers. During their escape, Douglas got hit by a high-tech taser that caused an electric shock, making Douglas lose his grip on her hand, leading her to fall into water, and Douglas to be captured, waking him in a panic. Strangely, he didn't know the girl in real life. Douglas was married to Lori, whom he loved deeply. She'd get worried whenever he woke up from these nightmares. Suddenly, Lori's phone blared an emergency alarm, unsettling her. She told Douglas about a passenger train blast in UFB territory, explaining she had to go as an emergency aid worker. Douglas turned on the TV, which was also reporting the blast. It was the fourth attack on the UFB in 4 months. UFB Prime Minister Cahagan blamed a rebel group called the Resistance. The resistance leader, Matthias, from the colony, believed Cahagan was a dictator exploiting colony residents by luring them with work and enslaving them. Matthias saw the Fall as a tool of oppression, not just transport, where people from the colony were sent daily as cheap labor, not getting the pay or life they deserved. Matthias wanted to close the Fall's route and free the colony from Cahagan's tyranny. Cahagan, however, denied all accusations, calling Matthias and his resistance a terrorist group fighting for world domination, not freedom. He accused colony residents of harboring terrorists like Matthias and was determined to thwart Matthias's goal. Matthias was underground, evading police. Recently, the police learned about Carl Hauser, a former UFB intelligence agent, now working for the Resistance and considered Matthias's right-hand man. Hauser was believed to be behind recent bombings. Douglas, away from all the political turmoil, headed to work. On the way, he noticed a billboard advertising Rekall, an advanced technology that implanted desired memories and experiences into people's minds, things they could never achieve in real life. Rekall allowed people to become superheroes, secret agents, or whatever they wished in their dreams. These dreams felt real and became permanent memories. People used Rekall like a drug, and Douglas had recently become interested in it. As usual, Douglas went to the UFB with his friend Harry and started working at the factory that produced robotic police. Robotic police were responsible for public safety. While preparing for work, Douglas asked Harry about Rekall. Harry smiled and advised him to stay away from it. When Douglas looked at him questioningly, Harry explained that a co-worker named Travis went to Rekall to fulfill a strange fantasy of ruling Mars. But the Rekall technology messed with his brain chemistry, trapping him in his own mind and leaving him in a permanent coma. Douglas was shocked. A new worker who had just joined was sitting nearby and overheard their conversation. The factory supervisor asked Douglas to train him. While Douglas was teaching him to assemble robots, the new worker told Douglas that Harry was lying about Rekall. He claimed to have gone to Rekall 3 times and made good memories there. The worker gave Douglas a card, telling him to ask for Mac if he ever went to Rekall. Douglas kept the card. Tired of his monotonous daily life, Douglas craved novelty and excitement. He decided to go to Rekall for these experiences. After returning from the factory, he went straight to the Rekall lounge, where he met Mac, a Rekall agent. Mac welcomed Douglas and asked what kind of memories he wanted: to be rich, famous, a world-class athlete, or a secret agent protecting the world. Douglas chose secret agent. Mac said, okay, and they would implant memories of him being a secret agent, working for the Resistance or Cahagan, or even both, as there were no limits in dreams. Douglas agreed. Mac sat him in a chair and started the Rekall process. Mac then asked Douglas to honestly admit if any secret life he chose, like being a secret agent or having a secret girlfriend, was actually real. He explained that sometimes people came asking for trips with their secret girlfriends, but if they had such girlfriends in real life, the real and fake memories would conflict, leading to severe brain damage. Douglas carelessly replied that he had no secrets. Mac's assistant then put the company's mark on Douglas's hand, and Mac immediately began the Rekall process. But Mac got a shock when he looked into Douglas's mind. He told his team to stop the recall, saying Douglas was already a secret agent. Mac then pointed a gun at Douglas and demanded to know why he was there. Just then, a UFB SWAT team stormed in, killing Mac and his team and taking Douglas captive. Douglas was bewildered and tried to explain his innocence to the SWAT team, but they were determined to kill him. Suddenly, Douglas felt an incredible surge of agility and strength. He swiftly wiped out the entire SWAT team and escaped. Douglas's fighting skills were as if he had years of training, which was impossible for him, as he had always lived an ordinary life. Douglas ran home where his wife Lori was watching the news about the Rekall Lounge attack. The news reported that the resistance had carried out the attack as a warning to the UFB, killing 20 soldiers. Douglas was surprised and told Lori that he, not the resistance, had killed those 20 UFB soldiers. Lori laughed, asking him if he had ever even killed a mosquito. Douglas then told her he had gone to the Rekall Lounge, and everything started after the recall process. Lori immediately said it must be a side effect of recall, that they had implanted these memories in his mind, but Douglas still felt it was real. Lori tried to calm Douglas by embracing him. At that moment, something terrifying happened. Lori squeezed Douglas with such force that he could barely breathe. Douglas managed to break free, but Lori pulled out a gun and tried to kill him. Douglas's temper flared. He retaliated, grabbing her by the neck and angrily asking what was wrong with her and why she was doing this. Lori smiled and said she was just doing her job. Douglas furiously demanded a clear explanation, threatening to forget their 7 years of marriage. Lori laughed and said she wasn't his wife, but an undercover UFB agent assigned to be his wife, and she hadn't even known him 6 weeks ago. She added that he wasn't who he thought he was, which shocked Douglas, but Lori insisted it was the truth. She explained that his real memories and identity had been erased, and the life in his mind was a lie. His identity and memories were changed by Cohagen, the UFB leader. She suggested he was important to both Cohagen and the Resistance, as the Resistance wanted him, but Cohagen had hidden him by giving him this new identity. Douglas, disheartened, asked who he was if he wasn't Douglas and his life was a lie. Instead of answering, Lori attacked him again. Douglas managed to escape from Lori, who sent more agents after him. Douglas hid among the crowd. Suddenly, a phone rang, and Douglas saw something shining on his hand. It was a mobile-like device embedded in his hand, and the call was coming from it. Douglas answered. A person named Hammond told Douglas to quickly put his hand on glass. When Douglas touched a glass surface, it turned into a screen, and Hammond's video call began. Douglas asked who he was. Hammond replied that they both worked for the UFB intelligence team. He said he was short on time and would get straight to the point. Douglas had told him that if his phone ever activated, Hammond was to give him a message, find the key. Douglas asked what key and who he was. Hammond said he could only tell him his name was Henry for now, and he didn't know about the key, but Douglas had said he would understand after receiving this message. He advised Douglas to remove the phone from his hand, as UFB police could trace it and catch both of them, then ended the call. Disturbed, Douglas placed his hand on the glass again, and a message appeared with a bank locker number. Douglas knew where the bank was. He quickly picked up a piece of glass, cut open his palm, pulled out the phone, and fled. As soon as he left, Lori and the UFB police unit arrived, tracing the phone. Furious at not finding Douglas, she received a call from Cohagen, who angrily asked how such a mistake happened and how Douglas was activated. Lori explained that Douglas had gone to the Rekall Lounge, and by the time she sent a police unit after him, he had already undergone the recall process. She suggested that this process might be gradually reactivating his old memories. Cohagen ordered her to catch him at all costs. Lori and her team resumed their search for Douglas. Meanwhile, Douglas arrived at the bank locker revealed in the message. Inside, he found a box containing several IDs. 2 IDs belonged to unknown men in the colony, and the third was for Henry Reed, a UFB citizen. Since Hammond had also told Douglas his name was Henry, Douglas realized this was his true identity. The box also held a collar-like device, a lot of money, and a piano button which Douglas kept. He then checked for anything else in the box. Suddenly, a switch activated, and a video of Douglas in a hospital appeared. In the video, Douglas said that if he was watching this, it meant he had failed to escape and had been given a false identity. He instructed himself to go to his apartment at 549 Hesperian Block D to find out who he was. He added that the key had been found and Douglas knew what to do with it. Just then, the footage showed Douglas being captured by UFB police and the video ended. Douglas didn't understand what key the footage was referring to, but he now knew that to find the answers, he had to go to his home in the UFB. Fortunately, the collar device he left in the locker was a disguise changer, capable of altering anyone's face. Using it, Douglas disguised himself and reached the UFB. Unfortunately, the device malfunctioned, alerting the police. However, Douglas again used the crowd to escape and reach the highway. But navigating the fast-moving magnetic cars on the highway was impossible. Laurie had also arrived, and Douglas felt his death was imminent. Just then, a car pulled up, and inside was the girl from Douglas's dreams. She let Douglas into her car and drove him to safety, but their car crashed, rendering her unconscious. Luckily, Douglas's home was nearby. Douglas carried her inside, put her to bed, and tended to her wounds. Afterward, he looked around the house and saw a piano. Although he had never played before, his fingers instinctively started playing a beautiful melody as he touched the keyboard. It was a tune hidden deep within his memories. While playing, he accidentally pressed a non-functioning button. Douglas remembered the piano button he found in the bank locker and realized it was the key he was searching for. He replaced the button and played the tune again. As the melody finished, a holographic projection of Henry Reed appeared above the piano. This was the same Henry Reed whose identity Douglas had found in the bank locker, and Douglas had assumed this was his real identity until now. Henry explains that the system is an advanced messaging system where Douglas can ask specific questions. He then reveals his real name, Carl Hauser, showing his true face by removing his disguise. Douglas is shocked to see his real identity. Douglas asks Hauser if he truly works for the Resistance, and Hauser gives a mixed response. Hauser explains that he never met Matthias and that he was an undercover UFB agent sent by Cohagen to infiltrate the Resistance and eliminate Matthias. However, after meeting Melina, he changed his perspective, making him realize he was on the wrong side. Hauser explains that Cohagen was falsely labeling the Resistance as terrorists and orchestrating attacks to justify building a robotic army. This army was actually intended to eliminate the colony's people and seize their land due to overpopulation in the UFB. Hauser explains that a kill code in Douglas's mind could stop Cohagen, and Douglas needed to reach Matthias to extract it. Hauser wishes Douglas good luck, indicating that the fate of the colony is in Douglas's hands. Douglas is unsure if this is reality or still part of the recall process. Melina wakes up and tells Douglas they've been searching for him, calling him Hauser. She says she finally reached him when he made the news headlines. Douglas angrily retorts that his name is Douglas, not Hauser. Melina asks how he knows her if it's a lie. Douglas says he doesn't know her and has only seen her in his dreams. Melina responds that it wasn't a dream, but his memories, and asks him about the scars on his hand. Douglas, who has scars on both sides of his palm, says he got them working at the factory. Melina then shows him her palm, which has a similar scar. Melina explains that when Cohagen found out he was with the Resistance, he captured him, and she came to rescue him. They were fleeing from UFB police, holding hands, but a bullet pierced both their hands and they were separated. She asks Douglas if these are the memories in his mind. Douglas begins to believe Melina. Suddenly they hear UFB police sirens. Douglas and Melina immediately run, but fall as they exit the building, finding UFB police have surrounded the exit. They try to escape through another way. Then Douglas sees someone, his best friend Harry. Douglas asks him what he's doing there. Harry says he's there to help Douglas, clarifying that he is in Douglas's mind. Douglas is shocked. Harry continues, explaining that Douglas is still sitting in the recall chair, and everything he's seeing and feeling is fake. Harry says he was sent there so that seeing a familiar face would make Douglas realize the truth and help him escape this illusion, urging him to come quickly or be stuck there forever. Douglas's mind reels from all of this. Melina then tells Douglas not to listen to Harry, stating that he's lying and is also Cohagen's undercover agent, sent to be his friend just as Laurie was sent to be his wife. Meanwhile, Douglas looks outside and sees Laurie looking distressed. Harry tells Douglas that thinking Laurie was an agent was a figment of his imagination, and now his mind has made her innocent. Douglas is in a dilemma, unsure who to believe. Harry then points at Melina and tells Douglas that she is the root of all this trouble and has kept him trapped in his mind, suggesting he kill her to get out. Douglas is terribly confused, unable to distinguish truth from deception. Suspecting Melina, he points his gun at her, but just as he's about to shoot, he sees fear and genuine tears in Melina's eyes. In that instant, Douglas understands Melina is real, not his imagination. Without hesitation, he shoots Harry. Douglas's guess is correct. Harry was also a UFB secret agent, and this was all a trick by Laurie. Douglas grabs Melina's hand and escapes through the lift. Without delay, Melina takes Douglas to Matthias, the Resistance leader's secret hideout. This hideout is so secret that Cohagen and his army hadn't found it until now, because it's in the no zone outside the colony, where the air is poisonous. Upon arriving, Douglas learns that Melina is Matthias's daughter. Matthias meets Douglas for the first time and doesn't trust him. He asks Douglas his purpose for being there. Douglas replies that he is there to help, stating that his mind contains the kill code that could destroy Cohagen's entire robotic army in an instant. Matthias Matthias has a recall machine. Without hesitation, Matthias seats Douglas in the chair and begins scanning his brain. He finds encrypted data in Douglas's mind. As Matthias decrypts it, a holographic projection of Cohaagen appears. This was all Cohaagen's ploy to reach Matthias. There was no kill code. All the clues about the kill code and the messages about his past that Douglas received were left by Cohaagen himself, allowing Cohaagen to track Douglas and find Matthias's secret hideout. The next moment, Cohaagen's army attacks Matthias's comrades, eliminating all resistance members, including Matthias. Douglas and Melina can do nothing to save them. Afterward, Cohaagen reveals another truth that stuns Douglas. Cohaagen explains that Carl Hauser, Douglas's former self, was not supporting the resistance. Instead, even after knowing Cohaagen's truth, he still worked for Cohaagen, being loyal to him. Hauser had trapped Melina in his web of love because she was the most crucial link to reaching Matthias. Melina is also shocked to hear this, but Douglas, with his new identity, has become a good person and wants to save the colony. However, Cohaagen is very cunning. He orders his men to erase Douglas's new memory and restore his old memory as Carl Hauser, so Cohaagen's loyal Carl Hauser can serve him again. Melina is to be kept alive so that when the Hauser within Douglas awakens, he can beat her and force her to confess to the world that her father was a terrorist. Cohaagen's men take Melina away. Cohaagen also leaves with Laurie to prepare his robotic army to attack the colony. Cohaagen's men tie Douglas to the recall chair and begin the process of bringing Hauser back. Douglas is helpless, but then a helping hand reaches out. A masked soldier frees one of Douglas's hands from the chair. That helper is Hammond, a loyal resistance member embedded in Cohaagen's forces. As soon as Douglas is free, he kills all of Cohaagen's soldiers, but Hammond dies in the fight. Douglas has no time to mourn because Cohaagen is already loading his robotic army into the fall transport system for the attack on the colony, and they have also imprisoned Melina inside the fall. Douglas comes out of Matthias's hideout and sees one of Cohaagen's helicopters outside. He immediately takes the helicopter and heads towards the fall, entering it before it departs. He takes some time bombs from the helicopter and, hiding from the UFB police, plants them inside the fall. Now Douglas has to find Melina and get her out before the bombs explode. The fall, filled with thousands of robots, is rapidly moving towards the colony and will land in 17 minutes. Meanwhile, Melina is scared and worried about the outcome of this attack. Suddenly, Douglas comes in, kills all the soldiers, and frees Melina. Seeing Douglas, Melina is filled with courage, but a fear still lingers in Melina's mind, and she asks if he had really only pretended to love her. Douglas replies that whether he was Carl Hauser before or Douglas now, he is always on the side of good. Hearing this, Melina lovingly kisses Douglas. Just then, UFB police surround them. They inform Cohaagen that Douglas and Melina have infiltrated. Hearing this, Cohaagen sends Laurie to eliminate them. It seems impossible for Douglas and Melina to escape, but then the fall reaches the Earth's center, causing gravity inside to disappear for a few moments. All the soldiers lose their balance and float in the air, but Douglas, who travels by the fall daily, is used to this situation and knows how to maintain balance in zero gravity. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Douglas attacks the soldiers and escapes with Melina. They exit through an emergency exit and reach the top of the fall, moving towards the helicopter. But then Cohaagen arrives and his guards wound both Douglas and Melina. Douglas falls into Cohaagen's hands, and Cohaagen brutally beats him. Melina, out of Cohaagen's sight, tries to figure out how to save Douglas. By now, the fall has landed in the colony. All that remains is for the robotic army to attack the innocent people of the colony. But then Melina arrives with the helicopter. She mows down all of Cohaagen's men with the helicopter's machine gun. Douglas also gets up and kills Cohaagen forever. At that moment, the timer on the bombs Douglas had planted reaches 0. A huge explosion rocks the fall, destroying the entire robotic army and the fall itself. Douglas and Melina have succeeded in their mission. They jump onto the platform before the fall crashes, narrowly escaping death. However, Douglas passed out due to his injuries. Sometime later, Douglas regains consciousness. He finds himself in a hospital bed with Melina by his side. Melina is happy to see him awake and lovingly holds his hand. But then Douglas notices that the scar on Melina's hand is gone. Douglas immediately realizes that this isn't Melina and attacks her. Douglas is right. It isn't Melina but Laurie, wearing the face-changing collar, who has survived the attack on the fall. But before Laurie can finish off Douglas, he shoots and kills her. Just then, the real Melina arrives and embraces Douglas. Peace has now been established throughout the world. People have learned the truth about Cohaagen. The destruction of the fall has freed the people of the colony from UFB slavery and from a dictator like Cohaagen. Douglas and Melina are also very happy about this. Suddenly, Douglas notices his hand. There's a bandage on it, exactly where Rekall had put their company's mark at the beginning. Douglas removes the bandage, and the mark is gone. This single question stirs Douglas's mind again. again. Was all of this really happening, or was he still living in a fake memory? But it doesn't matter to him now because Melina is with him, and his story ends there. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.